First of all, thank you for taking the time for this conversation. I'm sure you're very happy and very active with, the interviews and promotions for Stolen because huge congratulations on the success of the film. Finally, after
Thank
its
you.
release,
Thank you.
all the positive reviews are very well deserved. I happened to watch it a couple of days ago on Prime, and I was very happy when I got the chance to talk to you guys because it has been such an amazing experience watching the film. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. Well, technically, I was lying on my bed watching it on a big
Edge
screen.
of the bed.
Uh, yeah, edge of the bed. Yes. uh, so, first of all, my immediate question is, it's a very compact, very well crafted thriller, very well written thriller, but there's also a very humanitarian aspect to it, and that is what I like the most whenever I watch any kind of horror and thriller or thriller movies, where it is always a struggle to bring in these elements, because you are compelled to write it in a way that always puts people on the edge of their seat, but you also need to have that emotional core, which Stolen has very impact. I mean, it has imbibed the whole thing very well, especially under 90 minutes, which is very commendable, which is a very short duration when you consider Indian films in general, because there are many aspects to Indian films, especially mainstream Indian films. So my question first to the writers, obviously to both Karan and Gaurav, like how do you go about effectively packaging uh, something in a very compactified manner, where you also have moral dilemmas, you have characters questioning their actions, where you question the actions of the characters, but you also have something that there's an element of thrill all the time, that the audience has to feel engaged. It's not like they're losing interest because the screenplay proceeds in a way that something or the other is happening on screen. So how do you, what is the basic, I wouldn't say trick, but basic way to go about writing something like this?
Katie, you want to take it or should I start?
Now you start.
Yeah, I think it was quite clear that from the beginning that we wanted to show this in a 360 manner, in a manner that you could see both sides, and not give you a conclusion in a manner that you can just say, okay, this is the answer. And by showing both these sides and their complexities, and in the context of where they are living in today, it the layers kind of had to be there and the choice also was that we wanted to shoot this in almost real time, that the film starts at about 5 o'clock in the morning and ends at about 8 o'clock, so almost real time, something that we wanted to. So we had a lot of stuff to compile and package into those 3 minutes, 3 hours. So 363 hours, three characters. We wanted to reduce the number of characters so we can give them enough importance, but that gives us little room to go here and there. We wanted the audience to be in the driver's seat. So I think these choices that we made very early on, with the film, and kind of compelled us to create this narrative which was layered, because you couldn't go in length, you went in kind of depth. And um, I think that was kind of the trigger of what we decided right in the beginning, then is going on till now. What we decided to package it in a manner that we have. This decision doesn't come later in the development, and so we were very focused. Second was that we wanted we had no backstories. We just landed up at this station, and we are not telling you where this is, who these people are, who this woman is, whose child, what, nothing. You just land in the begin, in the middle of it, and as you go, with the film, you get to know these people slowly. It is just opposite of how films that we see usually, they establish everything first, who these people are, where they're coming from, mommy, daddy, blah blah, girlfriend. In the initial draft, we tempted to create some backstories, but because we were there at that time and we wanted to real, we had to lose those things as we progressed in multiple drafts. Then a lot of this was also when we would used to write a draft, we would send it out to our friends, in Germany, in France, in New Zealand, in Australia, wherever we had connections, in India, women writers, men writers, to give us feedback on how they felt about it. And we kind of, with their feedback, some of which we took, some of which we didn't take, whatever we felt, because they didn't know that we had made these choices really early on, and we are not going to move from those choices. So all of this, all that I just told you, just kind of created a very dense narrative that you didn't have to explain, you just had to witness. And then once you witness it, you can actually take whatever you want to take home from it. Katie, if you want to add something.
No, I think that's right. I mean, that's kind of covered everything. I mean, it's
I
a
mean, even
process of,
that
like you said,
reflected in
10
his
years.
choices of actually using the lens. He had only two lenses. He wanted to only choose. He was very clear. I only want two lenses. I don't want more lenses, because he wanted to keep the camera up front. He was decided on that on very, very beginning of the film. It wasn't something that, so our choices in the beginning, and it was just the pandemic that threw us off. Our choices was very designed from Katie's side, from the other third writer Swapnil's side, from my side, and how to produce this. And when Abhishek came on board, he was like, yeah, 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 we should go this way. This is the way I want to go as well. So that kind of, it was dense, it was tough, but because of the people conviction, I think whoever was the core team, it reached here.
Yeah. So actually, when you say that there wasn't much to the backstory and that was deliberate, I think that was a good idea, because I like the idea of slowly getting to know the people and not knowing them fully, knowing some aspects of their life. Okay, their mother is getting married, so obviously it was clear that they come from a privileged background.
Yes.
And then the whole thing about why Raman is so keen on helping the woman out, helping Jhumpa out, and because he has lost somebody. So those things slowly came in, and that really added to the flavor of the story, is what I think. Because that moral dilemma of whether to help that person or not to help that person, because your worlds are poles apart and you don't know where you will land up. That was very interesting, because these two brothers were, very different values and principles in that way. Although we see a character arc of Abhishek's character of Gautam slowly, becoming the way he did. Uh, because I was seeing some comments, the even so I watched your interview with Bharadwaj Rangan today, and I also watched I read some reviews on Letterbox, and people were like, "Oh, I'm so angry with Raman for do making these decisions. He's making one bad decision after other." But as a viewer at that moment, you don't know if that happens to you in real life, how you would react. You would only figure out if that situation comes along. But while watching the film, on at some point I was empathizing with Raman, that okay, he's a nice guy, he's trying to help out. And on the other side, I was appreciating the practical thinking of Gautam. So both these things, that push and pull thing of your own psyche, of your own moral compass, that was very interesting. And the way the film was written, I think it really helped to bring that out. So I have some like basic, as you now know that I have nothing to do with films professionally. So this is just what I'm doing now is for my love of films, and obviously love for films like yours. So when you shoot a film like Stolen, where I guess you did have a lot of long takes, right? And then you really, because it is happening in real time, you don't want to uh, show like there has been some gap in the time, so you want to make it continuous. So how do you decide at the editing table what should stay, what should not stay? And even those shots that look pretty difficult, like when they're driving and those people are charging at them with their weapons and coming on bikes and all. So those things look difficult to shoot. And I know it's a far-fetched comparison, but it reminded me of this running scene from 1917 due to some reason. I don't know why. Roger Deakins kind of cinematography. But
Yeah, yeah,
just,
yeah. Of
from my
course.
layman understanding of whatever few films I've watched in my life, few compared to other so-called cinephiles. But so just from technical aspects, how do you decide on the editing table what you should keep and what you should not keep? Karan, maybe.
I mean, Basudha, it's not based on whether the shot is pretty or it was difficult to shoot or any of that. I mean, that becomes immaterial. The choices on the editing table are objectively. So there's a very famous thing in film that you have to make a film thrice. First time you make it when you are writing, second time you make it when you are shooting it, and the third time you make it when you are editing it. So and it's like an old saying, but it's very true and very simple. Each process of the filmmaking, each section of this filmmaking process has its own sort of life that creates the product that finally you watch. So when you get to the editing table, you have to re-look at how you are telling that story that started out first as a script, then as a collection of shots, and now finally it gets formed into a story. So the choices become quite, I would say, at some level simple, at some level challenging, but simple because now you have to read, just only concentration is how can you tell this story of the characters, how can this narrative be smooth, how can it be effective. So that is how you kind of pick and take your choices. It's whether you took a long shot or not, it's that secondary. The long shot or the uncut feeling is a feeling that you've already imbibed into the material. So now that's there. Don't worry, you don't have to worry about that. Beautiful shot, don't worry about that. There are a lot of beautiful shots. The only thing that you have to focus on is the storytelling aspect, the characters aspect. That's it. And just have to follow that and be honest to that, and you automatically get your answers, actually.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So, anyone else want to add? Because I'm very fascinated about these technical aspects, which are technical for me as someone from outside the
Nobody else sat
industry.
in the
But
edit.
Hmm. Yeah.
Nobody else sat in the edit.
No, I've seen
Or
I,
well,
I've
nobody else.
seen I've seen all the cuts, but actually it was the editor and Katie who was really actively working on the edit. I was commenting, and Abhishek did want to see it. He was like, "Okay, just I don't want to see it till you guys are complete. Then show it."
Yeah.
And so Katie was actually involved in those. But what he said is pretty much is the truth, because at the end of the day, these choices are made many years ago, and even when we were writing and a couple of years ago, and then it's just about what makes sense on the table, what is getting the pace, what is getting, where needs to be heightened with the emotion, needs to be heightened with music, what needs more sound. These are things that you kind of think about, but your choices are already made, so you can't change. Once you're there on the edit, you can say leave a few things which you imagined at the time will look great, and we wrote and we shot, but some of them didn't make the cut. So the choices are whether we want to include everything or not, whether we want to add music here or not, or the pacing is, all of that was written into the material. Actors already acted it. So, I mean, the choices then determines your edit in that sense.
I mean, I think because when they came to me first now, they said that they want to make a one shot film.
Hmm.
Like they will basically make the entire film in one shot. I was like, that is madness. So, because whatever little experience I have of technicality of cinema, because I don't, I'm still learning on the job, right? And so I was completely like, I was like, how are they going to do it? So as an actor, I was like, but if they are already planning that, so whatever middle, way they will get, it's going to be more exciting than the regular block shot shooting which we are used to. Block shot shooting is when you just keep the camera one place and then you do OS, and all of those, which is a very boring format of shooting. And now when you work in these kind of cool gangs, then you find that very boring. And then you want everything to move quicker. You want everything to be handled. The energy is much higher in that kind of situations. And I think the beauty of some of the technical aspect of the film, and I don't like that all of them have achieved, is that sometimes you don't even understand where the camera is. So you forget where the camera is, or like, you forget about the sound of the film. And these are like things which are now very much spoken about, right? In the normal audience also. Everybody's talking about BGM. Everybody is like a BGM expert now. Everybody's like a camera expert now. कि हाँ, ये to make cinema. So it's nice to see this kind of uniqueness in filmmaking. And then the audience is just like, they're just watching the film. They're not looking or thinking about the technical aspect. कोई बात नहीं कर. The max common language I have heard about this film, it's very raw. It's very raw. It's a guerrilla shoot. It's not raw. It's not guerrilla shooting. They actually planned everything. But it was planned so well that you can't see that. So you can't accept the fact that, somebody can plan almost like a raw film.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I think that
Yeah, in
the
film,
aspect of, yeah, sorry.
craft should be invisible. That's what is a good film, I think, personally.
We
The
somehow
craft get
manage
invisible.
that. It is very difficult. So
Yeah, it's
yeah,
very
we
difficult.
somehow
That's
manage that.
important, though. That's what
So
everyone has
what
to
Yeah.
agree.
Bharadwaj Rangan was also saying is that, that overexposition of music, the lack of it shows because you are not. I've always felt in many films, especially in Indian films, that the audience is forced to feel a certain way when you use a lot of background music. वो अंदर से नहीं
Yeah.
आता है, kind of, because
Correct.
you're being told that it's like laughter tracks in,
Yeah.
sitcoms.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is
yeah,
where you
yeah,
live. This is where you
You
feel
imagine
sad.
Katie comes and tells me, I don't want any music.
Yeah.
Yeah, he initially wanted no music. He said, no,
No,
I'm
but
not in that small
Abhishek, if you
places
remember
only. Yeah.
the brothers scene where you guys are in the car, even till before you saw the edit, you were like, there has to be music there.
yeah,
And
yeah,
when you saw the edit, you were just, nobody even realized there's no music.
There is
You
no music.
yeah,
realize only.
yeah.
So he
जरूरत ही नहीं पड़ी.
And because you guys are killing it, fuck, why should we use
need
music? The
music. Why do we
actors are
need to
killing
enhance
it.
anything? It's already enhanced.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and also I think Bob did such a good job with all of those, even the door shutting and everything. So every
exactly.
action, every
Yeah,
motion was becoming a music in its own way. So we didn't
absolutely.
really need music. We had like music of life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
exactly. The sound design was very
yeah,
powerful
yeah,
Yes, yes, definitely.
and expressive also. So we didn't just
yeah,
do like realistic sound design. We did expressive
yeah.
sound design.
Yeah,
The
if it's
sound design
anger,
tells you the
the
story.
yeah,
It tells
yeah,
you the
yeah,
story of inside the brain. So there's many ways to get emotion only, not only in music. Music is a crutch actually.
Yeah.
Very well said. Yeah, that's true. So just carrying this discussion forward, because you're saying you all had some say or you were involved in whatever went in the editing or the incorporation of music. So how different do things work when you are in an independent film setting compared to when you're working with a big production? Because there people don't have that say all the time, is what I understand. Is you have to do things in a certain way because you have been told from the authorities or whatever. So, like, I know Gaurav has produced some very good independent films. I am still waiting to see when I can watch Peddlers and where I don't know.
Yeah, we are all waiting.
And Angry
A big
Young
studio
God,
is sitting on it for 15 years now.
yeah, Angry Indian Goddesses. These kind of films that you have championed very very bold stories, and now I think the independent filmmaking scene in India is becoming stronger, but as well as facing resistance in terms of release or whether
Yeah.
in theaters or previously independent theater films were also a thing in theaters. It's not so much the case anymore. Even on OTT, like if I'm not wrong, Stolen was made in 2023 when it went to different festivals, but 2 years later you get an OTT release. So, um, is it what are the pros and cons of indie filmmaking basically?
I mean, there are the pros you see is the glory, in the end, when you
The
have
freedom also.
the freedom, you can put your work out there, and the cons are just a long list. I mean, so it's just so long that I mean, I'll just spare
Yeah,
you.
the cons are mostly for the producer, I think. I have a feeling like, because like, if an actor is willing, the director is willing, it becomes a very easy, ride altogether. But I don't know how
I feel
producer
like
does it.
team building is easier, right? Team building, like if you bring together a bunch of passionate people
Good
who are
team, then
convinced by the
half your
project.
job is done. Yeah, half your
Yeah,
job is
yeah,
done.
yeah. I mean, this was just I was saying to somebody else. This is not only Katie's first film. It's our cinematographer's first film, costume designer's first film, production designer, sound recordist, everybody's first film. So they
No,
were
sound record is not first one.
sound
Oh,
recordist.
recordist. Sorry, yeah.
Recordist, first film. No, but the point is not if whether it's their first film or not. Point is what they, because when you get first time people, they are so driven and they don't think too much logic. They just want to do it. And then that energy you need to kind of shepherd in a way that we achieve that. But the energy you can't get with an experienced director or an experienced sound recordist because they'll completely say no, or the DOP will say, no, we can't do this. But these guys, the first timers have really energy. They want to prove it. They want to be there, and they really push. So I think it's the choice of the people, as Abhishek said, is 50% of the game. And we had this hand-picked people from various parts of India, some Assamese, some from UP, some from blah blah blah. This is the film actually made outside the system. It was not made in Bombay. It is my company runs out of Delhi. We didn't crew much from Bombay. We had most of the crew was from Delhi. Katie lives in Bombay and Goa, now Goa. Earlier used to live in Bombay and Delhi. We had very little Bombay and film industry and studio influence on the film. And that was kind of my main job. Don't think all of that. Just let's go and do what we want to do, because this is what is actually going to be a value. It will be a clutter breaking film because we are not following any of those rules. So this is actually a defiance of many of how films are produced and made in Bombay.
Right. But it's great to see these people come on board as executive producers, Kashyap and Motwane and Nikhil Advani and Kiran Rao. These are very big names. So do you think that there's like a good sense of community? Because these people also started off as independent filmmakers. They're not coming from big banners. Obviously now they are huge names, but then uh, this sense of community is very important, right? Like independent filmmakers supporting each other, the school of thought where
Yes.
you from where you have started, you help other people climb that ladder as well.
Yeah, usually I just want to say one thing. Usually what happens is that people do favors to each other.
Hmm.
I'll do this for you, you do this for now. In this film, everybody who's come on the film, starting from everybody, you can name anybody, is on the merit of the film. They wanted to do it, and I'm so grateful, and we all are very, very grateful for these stalwarts to help us push this film and get it out there. But it's not a favor to us in that sense. It is a favor. They like the film. They really, really like the film, and they wanted to own it, and which is great. Which is great for us who are trying to be outside the system, that some of the people who are very in the system are wanting to come and say, no, guys, watch this film. This is, I
Yeah.
think, one of the biggest achievements that we have.
Yeah, it's like a testimony for all the young filmmakers and young producers, that you can just start making a film and not worry about, how it's going to turn out in sales and everything. Because if the film is good, you will get people who will support it. Because that's the biggest fear. Because all my life in Bombay, I've only heard stuff where, like, अच्छी फिल्मों को भी support नहीं मिलता है. and stuff like that. But then there's a case like Stolen where you have hope and you know that okay, this is faith restored. That's it with these four
Faith
names.
restored.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great way to change the narrative also, because now we have a lot of talented people in the country, but then there are all these, boxes to check where you have to have certain contacts and all these things. The more we, change the narrative, the better. So I have one question for Abhishek, obviously. So
Yes.
because you have such a huge range of whatever you have done so far, starting from, I think your first credited obviously Rang De Basanti auditions.
Yeah.
I even if I don't watch the whole film, I go back to that audition scene from time to time because it's
Really?
just
Oh,
yeah, yeah. I
Achha.
mean, I watched the film many, many times, but that audition scene,
Yeah.
it's like one of the most hilarious scenes in the whole of
Okay.
film industry, I think.
Okay. Okay.
But your range, it goes from someone like Hathoda Tyagi in Patal Lok to all the way to, Bhedia and Sri. So you can be a cold-blooded murderer. You can be a, carefree, uh, thoda lallu type kind character in this Stree universe. So how did you make sure, or what is your advice to aspiring actors or even established actors who are trying to get avoided being typecasted? So this is not the only kind of role you can do. So how do you
Yeah.
choose roles or
I I
put
have
yourself?
been fighting the typecast all
Yeah, how to actively
throughout
fight
my
the type?
career.
That is the
Yeah,
question.
and to actively like fight the typecast is to always constantly like experiment. You never know what's going to work for you. See, in the initial years, to be very honest, I was lucky that I got an Ajji, which was a very dark role. Then I got Jana, which was a very goofy, funny role. Then after that, I got Dream Girl, which
Hmm.
was complete mass entertainer. Then I did like Hathoda Tyagi, which was completely like a unique psycho thriller. So now these are all these projects just came my way. Now I was just preparing myself as an actor to be able to do these roles. Usually as actors we are always attracted to one particular kind of characters. Um, and we also have this idea about that, oh, we want to be actor because we want to be hero. So
Hmm.
that's the main goal. And those who are like trying to coming from theater or stuff like that, they want to be Irfan Khan, who also was a hero of films. But then you know what I mean, like, but the history or the kind of struggle he went through to become eventually one of the best actors and heroes of our film industry, that was a long journey, and he kept doing different kind of stuff. If you see Irfan's like the kind of roles he has done, there's a huge range to that. And I feel acting as a job, uh, if you take it as a job and if you take it professionally, then probably you should be able to do most of the stuff which is thrown at you. I'm very scared of like, somebody throwing a character at me and me saying that, oh no, I don't know how to do this. That will be a tragedy. I will actually try and get to that point. If somebody offers me something which I have no confidence about, and then I have to build the confidence. I did that. Even the first film, Ajji, one day before the shoot, I said I can't come to set because I got cold feet and I thought that I will not be able to act. I had zero confidence. Then the director made, that he spoke to me, he gave me some confidence, he got me to the set somehow. And once on the set, I started like, just grooving with my director. So it's not as easy. Sometimes you will doubt yourself, but you just need to like go with the flow.
But speaking of lack of confidence, it's also important to challenge yourself, right? So if you feel like a role is not challenging you enough, do you feel tempted to say no to it, like, or you just go
No,
ahead?
I usually don't say no to a part. I say no to a full project.
Hmm.
Like, it's an overall thing. If
Yeah.
the part is not challenging, but the story is great, I'll do it. I'm very happy doing easy work, but a great story. But being a part, the whole idea is to be part of good stories. And somewhere,
Yeah.
when I'm a part of a story, I take the responsibility of making the story greater. That is my idea of acting. When I'm acting, I'm just not acting for myself. I'm acting for the story, for the director, for the overall vision of the film. And that's how I think I keep shifting gears from one film to another. Sorry, excuse me, I need water.
No
Huh.
worries. So I think I'll wrap up soon because you guys need some rest also. But one last question for all of you, whoever wants to answer, is something I ask mostly whenever I'm talking to independent filmmakers is how do you see it panning out in the next few years? Like the landscape of independent filmmaking side by side with mainstream, I would say it's it's not something unknown at this moment that Hindi film industry is undergoing some kind of slump in terms of original content and everything. We are seeing a lot of re-releases so that theaters can be occupied or whatever, but OTT is doing great, obviously.
You know
But
what? Actually, the last 2 months has been very good for Bollywood. They have been earning a lot. Like, there's a lot of money which is coming to the box office. So I don't know. I don't know if there's a slump. There was, but I think वापस जा तो
if
रही
it's
है
getting
public.
better, yeah, yeah,
I mean, they're going to the.
we
I
are
mean, I'm
all.
not talking about the quality of films or like that, but I'm saying audience वापस जाना शुरू तो हो गया है. That is happening in the last few
Hmm,
releases.
hmm,
That's what I have observed. So there is a definitely a good sign. That's a good sign.
hmm.
And I
But
mean,
do
I'll just
independent
like
films,
Yeah.
yeah,
for me, I did this film because I really thought that I really think that it's extremely commercial. This whole thing, this genre of road action thriller, it's a commercial genre.
definitely.
Whatever we are
Hmm,
saying,
hmm.
whatever we're talking in the film, that's a different thing. But the experience, it's an experience, right? I hear so many of these reviews of
Yes.
audience where they say 90-minute ride, 90-minute ride. Now that's an experience we're giving.
Yeah,
So yeah, the
definitely.
future is that you can make commercial films independently. I think that's what I would say. The rest GD and KT.
That's very well said. That's very well said.
Yeah, I mean, I concur
Honestly,
to.
independent films are doing better than ever before. Last year, we won the highest award we've ever won at Cannes
Yeah.
with
Yeah,
Payal's film. I mean, we've
yeah,
never
yeah.
won that award, such a high award. So I
True.
think that all in all, independent films are much stronger. Every major festival has one or more than one Indian film now. Every year, year after year, LA
Yeah.
1, 2 films used to come out. So I think all in all, if you talk about independent cinema or whatever this sort of, whatever you might want to call it independent cinema, call it whatever. But I think Indian cinema in some ways is doing very well as well, also.
I would say that the making of the film is the fun part of the film. The selling of the film is the not so fun part of the film. Distribution is scarce. It is tough to for independent filmmakers, not only in India, all across the world, to release their films. So making is happening a lot, but and it's going to festivals, it's getting recognition, it's getting awards, but it's not getting the kind of distribution that it can get. It should get, I feel, because otherwise there would be everybody will be making this kind of thing, because it's much simpler in that, without external pressure, because you're following your own vision. Then you don't have to worry about what this person is saying and what that studio is saying and what actor and what song you have to put in. So that making is, of course, you can make it, and then what are you going to do after making it? So the real breakthrough is needed in the distribution of films,
Right.
not so much in the making. You find the right people, you write a good script, find great actors, and you can make a good film and great crew, but how to release that film, that's a challenge. That's still a challenge, not only in India, every part of this world. Look at what's happening in America. America, anyway, half of LA is unemployed and not out of jobs. So they are taken things in their own hand. They've started producing their own stuff. There, the problem is
Hmm.
apart from the distribution is still sorted, but the production was largely financed by studios. Now that's going away. They are now doing what we are doing. The American filmmakers crews are now more on independent films, because otherwise they are not getting that. The larger studio slash streamer space has shrunk. They've reduced. They've cut 50% of their programming. So globally, different things are happening, but largely the problem lies in distribution and not in making it. It's in getting it out, selling it, marketing it, doing PR for it. This is a whole now become a whole industry of a completely it is run by big people. It is blocked at various places. The distribution. So that needs a breakthrough in that really needs some work. And this is not
So
India specific at all.
has how would you say the distribution thing has changed in the past, say, 10 years? Because we have seen, the internet boom and OTT and everything. So has that made things better or worse in some sense? Because you also have this quantity of films, just, overload of
Yeah,
quantity of films, because
yeah,
everyone is making films.
yeah. There,
So how have things changed
I
over the
think it's
past?
become better for the content of the film. To make a film, it's better because you get more. You could do many more things which you couldn't do earlier. But distribution is kind of monopolized. A lot of companies, which were different companies, different studios, have merged or bought out. So there are very few now entities that are the buyers have reduced because they bought each other out, because the smaller companies couldn't survive the onslaught of OTT and what it was doing. So there is a kind of monopoly in buying, which is reducing the power of the filmmaker.
Right. Yeah.
So that's I mean, 10 years ago, you could release, the film. You could make a film, release it in theaters, then do your, like for Angry Indian Goddesses, we did theaters, then we did transaction video on demand, TVOD, then we did, SWOD, and it had its own cycle. You could go from one to the other, and then we did television, whatever. Right now, it's either theater or straight to streamer. That's kind of binary that is there. There is no other way to make your film or release your film. You can't,
Mm-hmm.
no other option. And for us, which doesn't have a superstar in the film, it's hard to find marketing money for it, hard to find cinemas. Even if you find cinemas, they are not going to give you shows. And even if they give you shows, the audience feels, oh, 400 rupees a popcorn, and something that costs for 30 rupees, so distribution system needs an overhaul, and the OTT is it's making the content, let's say, the choices it's empowering directors, writers a lot, but it's not empowering any producers.
Yeah. That's why I go to theaters after eating something. I don't buy popcorn at the theater.
Yeah.
I think my money should completely go to the film and not to PVR. Anyway,
Yes.
uh, thanks once again for the very insightful conversation. Always a pleasure
Thank
to
you, Vasundhara.
talk to such
Thank you.
talented.
Thank you,
Thank you so
Vasundhara.
much for talking to us at 11 o'clock in the night.
So
Yes.
if I can watch a movie at 11, I can talk to people who are making the movie at 11. I can
No,
talk to
so
them.
sweet.
Well,
So sweet.
no
So
worries.
So
sweet.
kind of
You have
Thank
put
you.
all your heart and soul into something like this that we are really enjoying. So thank you
Great.
so much. And
Thank you. Thank
Lovely
you,
have a
talking to you,
Vasundhara.
Vasundhara.